Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Psychology Podcast. I am your host, Daniel Karim. In my podcast, I interview extraordinary people and pick their brains. Each episode will feature a guest who will stimulate your mind and give you a different perspective on the many paths that can lead to a rich and fulfilled life. This includes their favorite books, morning routines, exercise habits, trade secrets, nutritional philosophies, and their overall take on happiness and success. My goal is to find out where those amazing people get their holistic results from, so that you and I can use their tactics and go kick ass in life as well. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy today's episode. Mona, welcome to my Psychology Podcast. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Mona, first of all, I was fascinated by the last conversation we had, and you gave me plenty of food for thought. For people who don't know you, what do you say to them? What do you do?
I'm a writer, so I'm a copywriter most of the time, like for agencies. And I just recently read my own poems to people, which went quite well. And I feel pretty comfortable with that by now, because in the beginning I totally was not comfortable by the thought of doing that. I thought it's just a ridiculous thought to let people to invite them to listen to my profound and sad moments, periods of life. Like this is basically my diary that I read out to them. It's very authentic. It's very I'm very naked, and I was never. Why would it be? I don't know. It's not desirable to be super naked in front of so many people that just look at you. I can't hide behind colors like a painter. I can't hide behind a beat or a guitar riff like a musician. When people are there, they're fully concentrated on listening to me and to what I have to say, which is pretty frightening. But that's what I do. Yeah.
This was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you. Was I write also, but I have the internet between me and the people who I force to read my stuff, and what it's like to see emotions evoked in other person, because very often it is a weird thought for me that people who read my stuff, and most of what I write is pretty honest, and I very openly write about weaknesses of mine, about depression, and you see those persons. What is it like to go into this soul striptease and people see you in a way that you normally don't portray yourself when you have this mask on the entire day?
Well, since I never kind of hide, many people know me, like if there's room enough, because I trust people. Absolutely, there is no condition bound to this. I trust a lot of people. If I know them, if I don't know them, I really trust in being a human. So that takes away a lot of pressure, I guess. And so if there's time, I will show them, or if there's the interest or the questions are there, I will always kind of answer them. Or people will get to know me in that sort of way. But yeah, it's completely different, of course, if you like make a whole evening out of it, where like there's so much focus on exactly that. So it was weird. It was just very weird. It's you sit there and you really don't know what people would like or not, or I really tried to get away or to not focus on if people like it, judgment. I really tried to not think of that, because it just doesn't make sense. And you slowly, they sit down, they become quiet, and then you start to read, and you can't tell, because people look at you and there are too many heads, too many eyes. You can't really focus on one person. So it looks a little bit confusing, and you're really like in your own mode, reading out stuff, trying to not make mistakes, trying to be in the right mood or doing the right thing for you or the people. And yeah, you can't tell. In the beginning I thought that it's just weird. It's, okay, what is happening? Is this too sad? You know, you can't tell, because no one is laughing, no one is doing the sad face, or this, I just felt like autistic. I couldn't tell the faces. But then I just kept reading, and I realized they're actually listening. So do you know when people are very like, kind of concentrated and yet at the same time curious? Sometimes the face goes a little bit blank, and that's the face I got from a lot of people in the room. And the silence that was so confusing as well.
What deeply impressed me in a way was that just knowing that another person is listening to you and really watching you. They are watching every movement you do. They listen to every mistake you do. Yeah. And how does it feel when you sit there and a bunch of people are staring right at you? And because just thinking about it, reading my text to other people, it's like I start sweating right now. It's like a weird feeling. What was like the first time you read stuff in front of people? How did it feel?
You know, you're terrified until the moment you do it. That's why I did it. I did it because I was scared of doing it. I always do things since for years, since I'm young. And I don't know. I always try to battle my fears. And I'm pretty comfortable with myself and the way I am and the way things are in my life. And I realized that it's a horrible, terrible idea to do that. So I kind of did it because I was terrified by it. And then you do it, and just like everything else in life, it turns out not to be as terrible as you think it is. And I'm not scared of doing mistakes. I really think it's funny. I like it, and people love it. People love you doing mistakes. It makes you so much more, human. And they feel so comfortable because they know we are all, stupid things walking freaking planet Earth, don't know what they're doing, and you kind of just portray that by reading out. And people feel very comfortable as the more you're not trying to be something, the more comfortable it gets for the people, the more comfortable it gets for you, which is a nice experience.
Couldn't agree more.
Are my answers too long? I'm thinking.
No. It's perfect. Today it's about you, okay. Because the more you talk, the less I mumble, so people will actually understand what this podcast is going to be about. So it's a good thing. You were talking about fears.
Yeah.
And yesterday I wrote an article about a book, Walden, by Henry David Thoreau, which is a lot about Stoicism. It's about a guy who went to the woods in order to live there for 2 years without money and without a social company, by himself, in order to just see what happens, what's left if you isolate all the distractions from life. And Stoicism in a way has taught me that when you go into the scenario that you were most afraid of, and you show your brain that actually the world is not gonna end and not everybody's gonna hate you, and that it really liberates you from a lot of stuff, and you get more curious and try a lot more stuff. And a lot of successful people, for example, ask their children every day, did you fail today? Did you make a mistake today? And then they celebrate it for it. And I think it's a very German problem that people are afraid to even attempt things, and you kind of conquered it in your way of going out in front of a huge crowd and just giving them something blunt and honest and imperfect in a way.
If I break it down, for me really it's everything you don't do is closer to death. If you don't do anything at all, you're basically dead. So the less you do in any sort of way, the more dead you are. It's like make something. I don't mean it. And the guys, don't get me wrong. I don't mean like force yourself to be active and do all sorts of stuff all the time, 24/7. That's not what I mean by that. I mean, don't waste it on things you don't like or you're scared of doing. Or whenever you think there's something you want to do, just fucking do it. Just really do it, because what? Another Netflix series, another book you already kind of read, and just to be, gain knowledge even more, or I don't know, sometimes when I look at people, they overdo stuff, what they think is right for them, instead of finding out what's right for them by trying and, as you said, failing. Failing is such a big part.
Yeah, I agree. Any favorite failure story of you that you might to share that in the afterwards was maybe either hilarious or you gained a new perspective from it? Give you an example, like I got kicked out of college, for example.
Yeah.
And this triggered that I really evaluated my life again, and I realized that I'm much more in love with psychology than I know before. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you look at a mistake or a dark phase of your life, that you, in the aftermath, realize, okay, this might have been the best thing that has happened to me so far. For example, my friend, you know it already, like recently lost his driver's license, and now like it's been a really a big positive part of his life that he gets his shit together right now.
Okay, so that puts in a different light for me on failure, because losing your, instead of failure, I don't know, what is a failure? I have to kind of
Interesting. What is a success to you? What is a failure to you?
Success to me, I use it different than other people's do, I guess. Success, of course, is being happy and content and glad about your life, which means completely different things to different people.
If I would say to you the word successful, what person would come to mind for yourself? Who would you think of?
There again, I think people are successful in
your own definition.
In many parts of life, or different parts of life as well. I would never look at someone and say, "Whoo, okay, he is completely 100% successful." You know, I don't know. Sometimes I romanticize. Do you say romanticize? Sorry for my bad English if I make any mistakes. Okay. Well, I thought about Dali. I kind of think he, in in certain ways of life, I have the feeling that he succeeded in ways where I would want to succeed. But this is just because the moment you get to know someone, we still struggle to the fucking end of times. There's no way around it. So many people, that's why you're doing your podcast and the whole thing. Everybody knows a little part of the puzzle, and if we put it together, it makes a nice picture. Kind of successful. So, a friend of mine, he's super successful in his job and he loves it, and I admire him for all the power and the drive he got. And I don't know, he's always doing things, and they're also really like nicely made, and he really succeeds in finishing them as well, which is super nice. I love that about him, and he kind of really got so much drive for other people as well to drag him along with him. But he's so miserable. He's so miserable. He you know, somehow, you know, there's many special people that find special ways of dealing with things, and then yet again, some other thing you haven't focused on, you know, slips out of your hands, and then successful. My mom is successful in being super freaking humble. She's just happy wherever she goes. She's not having a lot, and she's not asking a lot for stuff, but she's super happy in that way.
Interesting. You were talking about your mother. Going back a bit, what was the first moment you know you wanted to be a writer?
I always was.
You always were?
A born writer? I just at some point realized how much I was already writing. I never knew. I told you once, when I was a kid, I did those contracts with myself, and I always.
They are good. What were those contracts about?
When I was
I like the idea.
When I was not happy with a situation or a way that I was writing down that I don't like that, and I tried to remember. I forgot it. Okay, like the simplest thing. Like I remember one thing because it was, I don't know, was it stealing or something? And I kind of really was mad with myself because I really loved that stealing thing. You know?
So you were stealing a lot?
For no, not really a lot.
It's hilarious.
I'm not talking like I was not a burglar. I didn't went to houses.
9-year-old OG.
But I don't know, just a shitty nice thing I kind of love, and it was just interesting for me to do it. I don't know what the fascination was. And then I thought about it and I realized I don't like that. That's not cool. I don't want to be that person. That it's fun, but it's not cool. So I kind of made this, okay, in future, I'm going to agree right now to not do this anymore out of those reasons. And I kind of described the way I want to be and the way I don't want to be, and yeah. And that it's like, now it's official. I agreed upon with myself upon this. And it worked.
It worked?
Yeah.
You're not stealing anymore?
No,
or what did you mean?
Only hearts.
Only that was deep. For people who never saw Mona, she's a astoundingly beautiful lady.
Oh.
And yes, without getting distracted, you were talking about your childhood, about your 9-year-old self.
Oh, yeah.
What was your childhood like?
Well, my childhood was really nice in the way of that I got the best of both worlds. I was raised in a village that was close to the city of Hamburg. So I had the city and I had the village as well. But I got raised in the village, which was really nice nature-wise. It was really, really adorable. And the way, because where our house was built, all the other families built houses, so all the kids were in the same age, sort of, and yeah, that was adorable. But we have to admit that life hit me hard very early on. So I actually do remember, this is really, the nice times are really silent memories. The loud ones are actually that I've always felt misunderstood. It's not super tragic. I was also a happy child. I sang a lot. I always made up stories. This is another thing. Like my mom, instead of her reading down to me, she asked me to make up stories, and then she fell asleep, and I was trapped in my own story. I was like, oh my god, and the mouse, and I was like all excited, and I couldn't handle my own story. So I was creative on a very early age. But yeah, I remembered all those very thoughtful daydreaming. I remember thinking about many things and looking out of the window like an old man and wondering about things and suffering from the world as it is very early. And kind of, so yeah, it has been a part of my whole life to kind of get along with that. I call it growing pains, actually.
What do you mean by growing pains?
I know this word doesn't exist in English, I think. In German is Wachstumsschmerzen.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I know, because you're tall, you know that. There's a German word that it basically just describes the pain you got when you grow. So you know that when you were young, especially when you're like as tall as Daniel is, you might have pain in certain areas when you grow fast. Yeah,
I actually had to start, I was a basketball player since I can remember, and I had to stop for a year because I was growing too fast.
Yeah.
And my knees were not keeping up with me. So I had to take off a year in order to let my body adjust to me suddenly being this tall ass dude.
Yeah, I've heard those stories a lot from tall people. I'm very tiny, by the way. I don't know those things. Fully grown in the 4th grade. But I call this, growing pain. So if you're making through, those phases that it's aching and you don't know what's happening, and if your soul just aches a lot, it just means that it's asking for things. And every soul asks in a different way. Every mind asks in a different way, because it's the way it's put together, it's all different. It's like a fingerprint. Your head is different than mine. Your heart is different than mine. You love it in a different way. You act in a different way. And so you also will grow in a different way. And your blossoms, if you want to call it as cheesy as that, your blossoms will look different too, which is important. But if you're in pain, it only means that your system is asking for a thing. You should find out what it is.
I couldn't agree more here. A huge misunderstanding about clinical psychology, for example, and especially depression, is that we in our Western society we tend to demonize it and make it appear as we have people whose brains are broken and who are suffering in their world just because they have a malfunctioning in their brain, and this is actually very wrong. And there's always a causal reason for you going through symptoms of pain, for example.
Yeah.
And we don't help people, for example, actually change their lives, because a person, for example, who's severely depressed and who can't get out of bed anymore, it's not just a product of them having not enough serotonin in their brain, but they actually have very good reason to not get out of bed anymore, because their life is shit. Mm-hmm. And as a true psychologist, it's not enough to just give them pills, but you must show them ways in how to make their own lives less shitty, so they're actually excited to get out of bed, and so that they are not so vulnerable to being not present in their own lives. What did you want it to be when you were 16 to 18 years old?
Since I was always quite struggling with being happy, I wanted to be just happy. So there was not a lot of room for wishes in any other way. Of course, though, since I was also creative, so I danced and I sung a lot of my, so like every little girl's wish of singing at some point or dancing at some point, which I both did until now. So actually, or making up stuff. So actually everything I liked, I did. I love to make up stories. I love to talk bullshit. So I cover that with copywriting completely, and creative writing with my own writing. Then I had here and there little occasions to now where I sung for people. Not saying I'm a great singer though, don't get me wrong. Well, my friends love it, some people love it.
Don't worry, I will not force you to sing.
Yeah, okay,
right
good,
now.
that's what I was. You heard me. I sung in the freaking where I was reading.
Yeah, I know.
And that was so weird though, because I never read those kind of songs.
It felt weird for me also, because for people who don't know, who were not at the gig, I was a bit late, as always, and I was sitting on the side alone, like 2 meters next to you.
Yeah, I know.
So people will switch between watching at you and watching me and thinking, what is this dude doing there?
I know. They told me, they asked me, some of my friends were like, who was that dude right next to you? It's like 2 meters tall guy that just sat right next to you. Like, oh, well, that's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Also, I don't look like the classical guy who enjoys poetry, I think.
I don't know. Well, look at my crowd. The crowd wasn't looking at it like that as well. Kind of.
Okay. Who was that handsome dude in the corner of the room?
Well, so so it was kind of singing, but everything, singing, dancing. I danced as well. I did some shows. Many of my friends are dancers, but that was when I was younger, and I decided not to maintain that in any show. But I still do it a lot. Love dancing, love singing. And I try to cover it all. I love painting. Like doing the commercial thing was always like lazy, compromising to doing art. Maybe that's one of the main things I really kind of, I don't know. I don't regret it really, but I kind of never decided to study art. But I always had the feeling as well, if I would do it at the times when I was feeling that bad still, that would eat me up alive. If I would, my system just knew if I would do it then, it would just destroy me I would just,
You mean art?
Yeah, this art would just eat me up and spit me. Like I would become the like everyone knows it, the slave of art, which is like super beautiful and super destroying at the same time. Well, it can be, but I just knew that it would be very destroying at that point. So I found my own way.
It's interesting. In my last podcast, I interviewed a painter, and I was always fascinated that artists, painters, writers make this conscious decision of, okay, I'm gonna pursue this job that is actually not the wisest thing to pursue, because it is a very tricky career. It is a tricky career. You're like, until you get to a point where you really monetize it and you will become a household name in your niche, it's a long way. And for many people, it doesn't happen at all. And I told you the story before that I asked her why she wanted to be a painter, and she said she had no choice, and she tried everything else and failed. And painting was something that she had to do. And that was deeply fascinating to me, that there are people who ignore the common path and just do them, even if it means that they're going to be broke for a couple of years.
Yeah, for a couple of years, maybe forever. You don't know if you start, and that's the whole thing.
Oh, please not.
Yeah, but when you start, you don't know, and you have to live with the thought of never getting that money that you want. Of course, some people do don't look at it like this, but many do, and it's a big sacrifice. And I'm very glad they do it. Shout outs to everyone outside that does anything at all, any painting, any dancing, any sculptures, everything counts, everything's good, everything's being made is being made. And thanks for all the sacrifice, because I think people don't get appreciated enough, since they don't get the money for a very long time. They have to live off appreciation and support. And it's very important to do that as well. And yeah, I'm super angry, because in my world, I would totally love to. I'm also trying to go into politics now.
You go into politics?
I don't know. Well, I'm doing
Lord
my baby
have
steps.
mercy on us.
No, but I really think it would make so much sense if the whole art branch would be covered by the state, and you wouldn't have too many friends of mine that are artists, and since making art, having art, it's very important part of our culture, so it has to be kind of covered by a government as well. I know it does already a little bit, but when I think of all my friends that are really struggling too much with just making money that they can live off, and just takes away too much time to produce what they're actually here for. And that really aches me a lot. I really think that should be changed in every fucking country of the world. There should be enough.
I agree. And there are too many great artists, writers who will stop at a certain point because it's just not affordable to live with this.
Of course.
Financial scarcity in the entire time, and people can tell you all day that money is not important. It sucks to be broke.
Of course it's important. If you there's this German rapper, he's got this line that says money's not important. This is all just a sentence that rich people say. Money's not important. You just say that if you have money. Yeah. If you don't have money, you fucking know that you need money for stuff and being yourself. And of course, you can live with that, having little, but you know what I mean. But I was going to say something else about
we are talking about stuff, and if you would name 3 things that you cannot live without, and none of the 3 can be me, so what 3 things would they be?
Well, if I say I can live without my body, it means I can't live without my hearing, seeing abilities. Really, please don't take this away from me. I can't live without my friends or people. If you would all go, I'd probably go as well. I don't know. This planet makes it so. Other humans make it so worth living. Besides being a human as well, yourself. So that's basically it. If I really wouldn't narrow it down to those things.
Interesting. Last question about you before we move on to the next section.
Yeah.
What was the greatest lesson that your parents teach you, if you would have to name one?
Ooh, there were a lot. They just kept repeating it, and you never know what's important until you realize, oh, good that I know that. It's important. My dad just repeated like, money's not important. You can always make money if you want it, but being there for people and helping each other and having friends, having good company is the most important thing, and you have to take care of it. And then to stand up for my rights, for my own voice, since both my parents are kind of into politics, so I went.
Where are they from again?
My dad is from Palestine, and my mom is from Germany. And then cooking. Jesus Christ. So glad that my parents taught me that so very early on. What else? Best lessons for being humble. I'm very humble. My parents are very humble. They don't need a lot. I've seen it. I've lived it. So yeah.
Last week I talked about you. On Monday I'm going to interview a psychology professor, a great woman, very fascinating lady, and she went to a seminar, and one of most famous Europe's hypnotherapists was there, and she went on stage and they did a psychological exercise, and the way he describes seeing her, that therapist almost could see the blockades and the anxiety in another person, and that for this person therapy was a tool to relieve people of that pain, of those blockades. And this totally reminded me of you, and I told her about you, that for you poetry in a way is not only a tool to express something about yourself, but also something that you give something back to guys. Could you elaborate a little bit why you write and why you read in front of people, and your connection to other people, if you would put a name on it, that why you believe that people are so healed after hearing your poetry or after having a session with you as a friend?
A funny session. Yeah. Well, okay. So there were many questions in there right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So
I totally messed up.
That's okay. I write for myself. This is the birth of every writing I do. It's my thoughts. It shouldn't be touched at any time by anyone. When it comes to judgment, or I'm never writing for someone, except for my heart wants to write about that person. So it all really comes from within myself, and so that's very important. So I write for myself. I do read out stuff for others. That's the only reason I do it. I don't do it for myself. It's very exhausting. It's weird. It takes a lot of organizing, all those things. But I do it for others because they asked me to, and they wanted to, and they liked it, so I did. That I do it because people, if there's any chance of making people happy, I will do it. Especially if somebody tells me, I could be happy by you doing that right now, and only you can do this in that very moment, for example, then you fucking do it. And everybody out there should do it. If you know you can make someone happy by being yourself in a certain way, go ahead and do it. It's just the best feeling on earth for you, and the best feeling on earth for the others. And when it comes to those things, because I have a special bond to other people's, and sometimes I got this feeling of, sometimes this might sound cheesy to some, but I don't care. It feels like my heart sort of remembers something that's not there right now. kind of feels like my heart always knew that I am one with everyone, and it feels very strongly for other people's, and there is no separation if I know them for a long time or not. And yeah, everything is kind of moved by that. So I'm constantly trying to make everyone feel good so I can feel good, because I feel such a strong bond to the other person. Can't bear it if somebody's sad, super sad in my environment, or and so that's why I read. And I think when it comes to being a friend, and I would never put it like this, because I think everyone can do it. Everyone has the ability of being there, listening, being truthful. I think people react in a positive way towards me because they know it's genuine. It's not faked. And that I'm all accepting, that I do get you as a person completely, and that I'm very close because I want to be close, and that feels warm. And so the comfort they feel is something that is highly needed right now in our society, and the lack of it gets more and more. So there's the need of doing that more. So I can encourage everyone, because we're all looking for love, we're all looking for acceptance, we're all looking for bonding with each other, and whenever you can, and those can be very little things, as long as they're meant like purely, they will be received very well. It doesn't matter how you express it. Some people do express it in very weird ways as well. Don't be scared of expressing it weirdly, or don't waste your time on thinking, but what, if you really feel like hugging someone, just do it. If you really feel like asking someone, do you feel bad today? Do it. If you feel like weirdly dancing, or I don't know, whatever purely moves inside of you, that kind of has to do with other people, especially in general as well, but especially with other people, just go do it. People will react, and if they're confused, don't get confused by them being confused. That's okay. People, let people be confused, even and especially that as well. If you don't get distracted by others being confused, you're not confused, and the whole situation is not confused. So. And it's nice. I think that's why people feel good. I mean it. I really do mean it. I really do mean it. I think that's the most important part about it.
First of all, thank you for that answer. That really gave me a lot of food for thought. Do you remember any epiphany you had, or big aha moment of the last years that in the afterwards really changed your behavior or your life, even in a way that you might to share?
Constantly, kind of. So that's hard for me now to point at one. There's constantly something that changed my way of thinking. I love it. I love changing my opinion. I think that's one of the greatest gadgets we got, is that we can change it at all times. I can now, after I've talked so long about something that was important to me, like I just did right now, I can totally change my opinion, but just the second I talk. Mm-hmm. And tell you, sometimes I do it in a sentence. Sometimes I begin something. I'm very sure if that's, it feels right. And then I realize, I don't know why I realized, but I realized while I talk, I was like, oh, no, completely bullshit, And then I say something else, or I listen to the person again, or, whatever makes. So, yeah, constantly. What was the last thing that changed my mind?
Maybe in the last year, or a moment that was important.
I've struggled a little bit with the way I am and how it's getting sometimes abused. And it's not really like a aha moment, but I gave this guy money, and all good stories start with I gave this guy money. He was, it was somewhere in Thailand, and he couldn't pay because, plenty of reason. Life is life, and I didn't have a lot, but I gave him. I was like, okay, well, how much do you need to like get over this month and get your money and give it back to me, whatever. Okay, so and so much. All right, so I gave it to him. Dude, this guy, and we really got along well, and he never paid me back. It's like. He even insulted me in like the worst kinds of ways. But I knew I loved him and he loved me. Like we had a great connection, and I just knew all that stuff just happens because you're fucked up in some way, and which is okay-ish. But I really got frustrated by this whole behavior, and that I constantly have to, clean up other people's messes because they're not, ready yet to behave in the right way, or treating me with respect whenever I'm willingly giving, which can be very hurtful to those people out there that are, and I know you're there, and I know your heart wants to give, and never let that other behavior change your own behavior. If you love giving, and yes, you'll be hurt, but acknowledge the presents you get for being that way, even if the people are not ready to show it to you or to give something back right now. You will be rewarded in a different way. Just keep doing it. And because I was on the board of people say, yeah, you're stupid. Why? I constantly get this conversation of, yeah, why did you give that fucker money? Or why? And I'm like, I'm not willing to change this. I should, because my experience was that I should stop doing it. I should stop giving a lot, whatever. But I don't. I'm not going to be that person that's not giving you the money if you need it. You can change if you want to, but your shitty behavior shouldn't have any on anyone, any change on my kind of pure thinking or willingly being good.
I see this a lot with people in love, actually, and dating. Often you have a relationship and you're the one person who's really investing and you are pure, and the other person often treats you like dog shit, for example, and then you take this behavior from this other person who got maybe is messed up in his head by himself, and you take this behavior and you let it shape you in a way that is not deserving of the other person, and you bring this shit from the one relationship into the next one. Then you are less able to trust other people. And I see this a lot with girls because, I don't know, like men have a lot of stuff to figure out before we blossom. If there is anything as blossom, because we are lost creatures. And
no,
like a lot of girls get confused by it, and very openly beautiful souls close in and get overprotective, and because of this suffer a lot of fear.
Yeah, but guys as well. Guys are the way weaker ones when it comes to dealing with emotions. If you get hurt as a young guy, like really hurt by a girl, you're fucked up. Like, I know so many guys.
Right?
Too.
We are puppies.
Yeah, you're really like, if you got, that's where all like many bad behavior comes from. From guys. Actually, that one girl that cheated on you when you were 15 or something, and you never are. All those guys that tell me that they're still in love with their first love, and it's so hard for you to get around those emotions, kind of. But yeah, but this is the thing with giving. If you have to be okay with giving. You have to be at a point where you know what you're giving. I knew what I was giving to this guy with the money. I know what I'm giving to the person. I never give because I want to have it back. If that, then you're lending. You're like lending. You can use it, but I want it back. This is not how it works. Give freely. Give freely, and if you have the feeling it's not treated with respect, drop that person without regrets.
Okay. Let's move to the next section of my podcast.
Yes. Let's do it.
It's gonna be a bit about happiness.
Oh yeah.
Okay, first question. If Nicolas Cage would come to dinner, what would you cook for him?
Well, I would ask him what he would like to eat, and then I would figure, I would think about what I want to cook, because that always turns out the best.
Okay.
The one thing that you would like to cook that night.
What's your favorite meal?
Ooh.
Or the one you get most praise for it?
Most what?
Like, if I say, oh my God, Mona, you have to cook this dish because this is amazing at you, right?
There are a lot.
There are a lot?
Yeah, I cook a lot and people love it a lot, so it's hard. It's very hard to decide on this one. But I like from plain stuff to very complex tasting curries with a lot of tasteful spices in it. I really like a lot. So my favorite dish might be something that I can't cook. You know, like conquering sushi.
Yeah.
Is incredible. Like having very nice sushi is just something I can't do myself. So, but I wouldn't cook it for Cage then. You know?
I'm gonna invite you to my father's house. He's like a genius at making sushi.
Your dad sounds like a genius in a lot of things, guys. I hope we have can we do a podcast with your dad, please? Guys,
yeah,
this would be so interesting.
That would be nice. We need to wait a little bit till we release it. But yeah, my dad is a super interesting guy. And Dad, if you're listening to this, apparently you are my next podcast guest.
Yay! Thanks to Mona.
Okay. Mona, next question.
Yeah.
What would constitute a perfect day for you?
Ooh. A perfect day would be, I get up, the sun is shining.
What time?
I get early.
Early, okay.
Let's say 8, not too early. Don't overdo stuff. Because I always staying out late, whenever. So 8 o'clock in the morning, the sun is shining, or even earlier, maybe sunrise even, I don't know. Something around that. Then I get up, I have a really nice coffee. A perfect coffee.
Do you drink your coffee black?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I would be productive in any sort of way, or if I top it off with something, even with someone that inspires me. If I make a day up, so that would be, I don't know, a friend of mine, and we design something, because I sew as well, you know, it's like just doing something productive, or we paint and we have a painting, or for example, now I'm going to do with my best friend a day like this, and we're going to sew, and he's really good at sewing, so we're going to do that. So something productive in any ways. Then all of a sudden, many people will come, and we have a great laugh. We're laughing our asses off, because everyone's just super funny, because we're all weird and we don't get each other, but that's very funny, and that's why we're all laughing. A little bit confusing, weird situation, but very funny. And then we have a great, I don't know, something super awesome to eat. And maybe we're going to see some landscapes we haven't been visiting before. I take a walk by myself, very alone, and I just listen to the noises in the woods, and smell the different like forest smells. I check them all out by myself. I calm down so I can get back to the party that's already happening somewhere with my weird friends, and they're new friends of their friends, very weird as well. And I'm already like very curious of how weird it can get and how fun it can get. And then we're gonna drink and talk the whole night till we all fall asleep on the same floor, and wake up again and do it again. Yeah, maybe that's a perfect day for me.
Sounds like a beautiful day. Beautiful day. Mona, you said you're a great cook. If you would, your objective would be to cook a dish for happiness, what would be one ingredient in a metaphorical sense that you would add in order to give personal advice how to be happy? If you can name one thing from your personal story, for example.
Love. Everything comes down to love. Love is the only thing that counts. Love is the only thing that stays. Love is the only thing that we're asking for. Love is the only thing that we want to practice. It's why we're doing everything. So, and even if you cook, the only ingredient that shouldn't be missing is love. Even if you have the shittiest bread and the shittiest piece of cheese that looks like an old stone and no butter, it will still be the best sandwich in the whole wide world if you add a big spoon of love.
If I would ask you the same question, but instead of happiness, I would plant the word misery, what would be one ingredient that you would put in? Something to avoid, something that will surely lead to you becoming unhappy.
An ingredient that would make me unhappy?
Yes.
Isolation.
Isolation.
I think it's isolation in every way. If it's kind of links to what makes what we talked about before, what makes stuff worth living. So not seeing others, not being able to share, not being able to see stuff, to hear stuff, to be alive. So isolation in every way. My body isolated from the world, and my spirit isolated from the others. My feelings isolated from the others, even from nature. So like being isolated is the worst. You can't do anything with that.
There's a very nice book. I need to make a gift for you. It's called Lost Connection from Johan Hariri. He's one of the leading experts in depression, and he talks a lot about that. The disconnection from other people, from purpose, from nature is one of the driving forces that actually builds up depression in people, for example.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the psychology section.
You actually do have questions there, right?
I have questions.
I just didn't realize. I was always wondering.
Totally memorized all of them. This is like a natural interview.
Yeah. I thought. Yeah. Okay. Shoot.
Okay. What do the first 60 minutes of your morning look like?
60 minutes?
Yeah. And we had an interesting discussion about this. Maybe I start with that. Like you saw in my room that I have this whiteboard, and on my whiteboard there are all these morning habits that I try to do, from journaling, meditation, sports, getting my protein, and all of that. And you made a fascinating observation that really surprised me. Is that your way of starting the day is like for you it was almost like too many rules, and I never saw it as rules or a prison. Would you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Sometimes when people try to, or when I observe it a lot, people trying to optimize themselves. Optimize?
Yeah.
On a constant level, which seems very stressful to watch, because sometimes I think they separate themselves from their inner voice, because there is no room when you have too much structure to ask yourself if that's right, because you have to give every morning the chance of being a different day or a different you, because you are. And especially when it's hard for you to have a good connection to your inner voice and what you need on that specific moment, that specific morning, that specific you, you should have that connection, because those things are all good. Like meditating is good and sports is good. It's proven. We all know that. That's right. But I just think there has to, because it shouldn't be something that is separating from your inner world. It should be, and yeah, it should be a song, not I don't know, not matching rhythms.
Interesting.
But I don't know how it feels, so because I don't have it.
No, I like the fact with especially repeating the same thing over and over again. Something that is very true for my life. Okay, I interrupted you. The first 60 minutes of your day.
60 minutes of my day. So in minute 1, no, I don't do that. I get up and coffee.
Coffee.
I love coffee, guys. What should I say? I'm half Arab, so coffee. A good cup of coffee, and most like in the last couple of weeks, I do have this habit of having documentaries
In the morning.
in the morning, because it's the best time for me to digest them. Because
About what?
sometimes I'm too heavy on my head in the noon, or a lot of people watch stuff at night. But sometimes I get too, lost too much in thoughts and in misery of other people's, or like just the topic. It's because many documentaries are like heavy maybe on you. So in the morning sometimes is a good way of, starting certain thoughts, but having enough time to think them through or evaluate them for yourself. I love to, for example, I love to watch different cultures stuff, or artists, like the channel in Germany. I freaking love it. Love those guys. And they always have something that I love, that they have like the random topics, and you're like, sand, But I bet it's going to be interesting, because Arthur knows all the fucking stuff about the sand that's make you go, wow, oh my God, sand is everything, and you'd be like, oh, I love to be surprised. So in the morning I do that, or heavy stuff I do.
Any documentary you would like to recommend?
Ooh, oh God. Like Germans, I would just recommend just go on Arte and watch whatever.
Okay.
I really like the Frank Zappa.
Frank Zappa.
Questions. Was it Questions to Frank Zappa? I'm very bad at remembering names and stuff.
It's okay. I'm gonna put the link in the show notes.
Oh yeah, good. But that's just because I think Frank Zappa is he's one of my idols, when we go back to that. Frank Zappa, like the way he approaches stuff, the way he does stuff, in which mood, and just the way he does stuff, and then the stuff he does is incredible, incredibly free, incredibly motivating, incredibly smart, incredibly high on quality, but at the same time super dumb. Like, that's like a mixture that I admire the most. He does the most silliest things, the most stupidest things, and then he have like this super complex orchestra things going on. And then he's just sitting there laughing,
What does he do?
Frank Zappa is like one of the biggest musicians ever.
Ah, okay.
Like, not ever, that's a fucking lie, but to me kind of is. I'll show you later.
Okay,
I'll
cool.
show you a
Cool.
nice song.
So you get up, you make coffee.
Oh yeah.
You watch a documentary.
I watch a documentary, and then I kind of get my day started. So I look at, sometimes if writing hits me, I'll write. So that's then the day, So I just start writing about the weirdest, whatever comes up to my head.
What is the typical mood you start your day in? Because for me, one of the reasons I do so many habits is because I wake up quite anxious. And
anxious?
Yeah, in a way, like anxiety is a thing for me in the morning. Like every time my brain is like in the night and in the morning, it's not good. So I do a lot of stuff actually to, like you watching a documentary, like I take a cold shower, or I listen to music, or I journal straight thing in the morning, just to give my mind different food, so it has something to do, because my mind on its own is a freaking asshole. So I need to do something like this. Like, what is the mood you wake up with normally?
It used to be super shitty. For the longest time in my life, it was super bad. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
It wasn't anxiety. Yeah. It was just pure sadness, pure essence of sad.
I love the impression on your face, like, oh, well,
yeah.
Oh boy.
But yeah, and I remember how I cried in the middle of the street to my mom, and because I couldn't get how people, like normal people, as they say, get up in the morning and just do their day. To me, it was impossible to think that could happen for me ever. Every morning is just as an asshole. Don't want to watch myself in the fucking mirror. Don't want to get up. This is horrible. I feel horrible. Everything aches. Nothing is beautiful. It's difficult. That recently changed. I never thought it would.
How did you change that?
I think with all the little things that I've worked so hard on with myself. All the little things of listening to me. All the little things of producing as much joy in my life as I can, and try to look at it and appreciate it. You know, happiness has a lot to do with being grateful, and that's something you have to practice, of course. So the mood I wake up in now is very depending on. It could be still bad, but I just overlook that because I'm so used to it. I don't, I just really trained myself as well to not pay too much attention to it. And but if it's good, it's good. Yeah. So my mood is depending on what I know what I'm going to do next. So if I know, I have to hurry up doing. I love to wake up and do stuff too. Mm-hmm. I don't want to forever walk around my flat and don't know what to do.
Doing nothing sucks, actually. I don't think most people get it. That the dream of I don't want to work a day of my life anymore is actually a pretty shitty idea of living, and it's not fun. A thing that stuck with me from our last conversation, you were talking about watching in the mirror and not liking yourself completely, was that you told me that self-doubt and self-hate is actually a form of laziness, because you don't do the little things that will eventually add up to you being more self-aware of all the little things that are actually amazing about you. And this was actually something that profoundly made me think, because I never thought that self-criticism is laziness, because you don't do yourself due diligence by reminding yourself constantly of things that are nice about you, and everybody has things that are nice about you, and you can be a good listener, you can make people laugh, you can be, you can be great at hugging people, I don't know. And for that, of course, I want to thank you.
You're welcome.
And I don't even know where I wanted to go with this. So let's go to the next question.
Laziness plays a big role in many ways. If you're not comfortable with something, you have to change it. And changing, we all know this, changing starts with you. You have to change something. So many things have to do with laziness, which is okay, it's okay. I don't want to, demonize laziness, because laziness is a very nice thing. It makes you creative and efficient.
Preach.
That would be a song. There's even a song from Wagner, I think.
There's
Oder an die Faulheit oder so.
Okay.
Keine Ahnung. And laziness was made, from the evolution part. I think laziness was quite important. So to get your rest, so you can be on your top, performing skills when you're ready to do stuff. But that's how you have to see laziness. Enjoy. Be creative. Don't do the complicated, heavy, and super draining stuff everyone else does. Be lazy enough to change it and to minimize the shit in your life, to maximize the joy where you're not lazy because you enjoy it as well. So, and so laziness comes in different shades and has to be fought or celebrated.
Okay. Walk us through your habits around writing. What does it look like? What do you do before you write, and what do you do after you write? And where do you write? And do you write in a journal? Do you write on your MacBook?
Everywhere. I have books. I have sheets of paper. Sometimes I write on the restaurant tables. Whenever it hits me, it has to be done. And especially if I have the feeling I have to write, because sometimes I look at something and I already see my hand writing on it. I already do it. Yeah. So it has to be on that as well, because I truly believe that the surface you write on, or the device you're using for writing, changes your writing. So, and then I started to do the laptop thing, because I really loved writing with my hand, and but then I realized I actually need my laptop, because my writing has to speed up. So it helps to, for example, my laptop helps me to have the same pace, writing pace as my thinking pace. And that changes my writing in a certain way, which I like, because it makes it more direct, like more authentic even. I don't miss any mood that's coming up in any way.
It's also fascinating to see your thoughts appear in real time, I feel. I write pretty slowly with a pen. That's why I don't write in a journal.
That's why. And then you get just messy and, you
can't read it afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that. So, and I write everywhere. I can write everywhere. This is one of my most favorite things to do on a Sunday. I go have breakfast on my own and write. To have like enough time to spend the whole day, but actually I write at night. That's of course for sure. When I write after work, I write during work, like if it hits me and something has to be written, but I'm actually working on something else, I 100% interrupt that and get it out of my system, and then I continue.
You said when it hits you.
Yeah.
Are there things you can do to provoke this muse hitting you? Or are there things that can get you out of your zone?
I don't exactly know, because I always write and I'm not wondering or I'm not questioning it when I don't write. I have a very kind relationship with me in writing. So if it appears a lot and I'm struggling, for example, I struggle with writing too much and then because I get in a zone very quickly, where I lose contact to the world as it is, like in the reality I live. And the more I write in that insane pace of thoughts that takes me everywhere, it's hard for me sometimes to get back in, to cut and to go back into reality. It feels a little bit uncomfortable, and that could happen, for example. And that's one of my most favorite things to do, is when I can already feel, okay, I'm separating myself right now. I can feel it. It's nothing I do too conscious because I'm writing. But I make quite sure if it's getting pretty bad, like pretty intense, I make sure I call a friend. Because the moment, that's why I need friends too, the moment I touch someone and I can locate them, I can locate myself as well, because I know who you are and where you stand, and I can go to the connection I have with you, and the moment I touch you, it will give me back the ground on my floor.
So you can lose yourself in writing?
Yeah.
Interesting. Fascinating.
And touching people, or
you don't enjoy getting lost sometimes?
I totally enjoy it, but
because for me, writing and a lot of what I do is actually me enjoying this escape, this trance of totally dedicating yourself to a single task that you are doing right now. And I can't talk to other persons while I'm doing it, for example. This is why I go to the gym alone. This is why I love to play basketball by myself, why I write and I will put my speakers in and will not talk to anybody for hours. Because I kind of like this isolation in a way.
I don't know. Yeah, the thing is, first of all, most of the times I don't truly believe people they're saying that they like to be isolated. Most of the time I don't believe it. It's very rare that it's actually meant that way, like purely meant from your system. But the way I separate is hurtful. It's hurtful, and I can't land. When I'm going back, I'm still. It's the world is too much. It's going on too wrong, and it can be very. I can be pushed in a corner where my heart, because it's heart time, right? It's open heart time, like completely. As you said, that's the thing you enjoy, but. As I had to learn to kind of, how to get the volume down of the way how I see and hear and perceive things outside in the reality. And so it can be very hard because my psyche wants to get, wants to to lose it strongly sometimes, and then I can feel like I'm not in my body, you know. I lose my arms, and you know, it gets in the way where it's just not enjoyable to 100%. I can like deal with it, but it's easier for me to like grab someone, because a table, for example, wouldn't be enough.
Okay.
A table would, like, my fantasy, you know, it's just going wild, and the next story comes, like everything that I don't know by heart, or you know, where I don't have like a good connection. Same with, like, I could also go into nature, for example, because I have a connection there. But things that I don't have a connection with, they just kind of get into my story life, and then in my writing, in my other world. And
you have a fascinating perception of the world. In the way you, when we talked earlier, the way you describe how you perceive things, the world and other people, it's pretty unique, if I can say that.
Is that? I think it's very natural.
I don't think it's that natural. I think this is a huge part of why you were so good at writing, is because you see things in your own way. And of course we all do, but you capture a lot of situations, moments, and things that other people feel, but they cannot put words on it. And you do a great job of see, you have a situation and you kind of put it on paper. You have something in your heart, and yeah, it is a form of translation.
I'm a translator.
Yeah.
I am also, I see myself as was eine Hebamme nochmal auf English?
Hebamme is someone who gives birth to babies.
Yeah, someone who's giving birth to babies.
This is the official term for it.
No, yeah, it's not. I know, but because the ideas, things that come to me, they feel more like universal. Thoughts to me are universal, and I just, you know, I bring them to Earth in a form.
So they are not your own, but they come through you.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Also, I give them shape, you know?
Okay.
I shape them. I put my words on it.
Okay.
I have like a little stamp, kind of, you know? Yeah. That's why it's also still be fascinating, no matter how... Because you write, all those things have been written before. We have so little things to write about. It's always love and hate. And, you know, we have all the same asset of feelings. We come up with the same problems since thousands of years, and we just kind of stupidly repeat ourselves. But it's not, because you give it your own. That's why it's so important to give it your own twist, your own, because nothing can be like you. No one can see it the way you do, and so it's so important to maintain that your own way of seeing things, doing things. And the other thing was that I think that it's quite natural. I don't think it's natural because I feel like it. Of course, big part of me thinks it's natural to be like that. But because I am like that. But the way how people react to that kind of makes me feel it's natural because it's so wanted. Whenever I think whenever something is pretty much wanted, I always instantly think then it's meant to be.
What has surprised you so far of being a writer?
Ooh, that people like my stuff.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, well, that was surprising. But then at the same time, you just know life is weird, world is weird, people are weird.
Do people tell you actually that they don't like your stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's very rarely it happened. Like, they don't say, I don't like it. Or they rather say, okay, I don't feel anything here. You know?
People on the internet are going to be much more bluntly than...
Because they don't have to show face.
Yes. It's ridiculous, like...
You brave people outside not showing your face. Please leave some comments about how wrong I am. I would love to hear your opinions. I don't get that too much in my life because people are not as brave as you. People say that, and I don't care. I really don't. I actually, it just makes sense that people don't like your shit. Why would? It would be weird, it would be unnatural. People feel the weirder thing is that people feel bad about telling you, and you're like, it's completely okay. You don't have to feel anything reading that. I don't know. It's like no, don't. It's fine.
If you could give, your mission would be to produce a great writer, and you have like a couple of months with him. What would be 3 things you would make him do in order to become a great writer after that time?
I think my coaching would be not so close, not too close on writing skills. Mm-hmm. It would be very much be about finding your voice, getting rid of boundaries, getting rid of filters, because that's the way I write. Of course, and I would never say that's the one and only, but if somebody asks me and I have 2 months and you ask me and not someone else, so I will tell you the way I think writing is the most beautiful thing that you could do. So I would tell them, first of all, to forget everything they would want out of this, to get rid of every expectation. Then I would ask them to please not judge at any time what they're writing. And then I would say something like, appreciate everything you write, regardless how stupid it is, because it was legit, because it was there. You were thinking it, and so it's worth writing in that moment, so you can purify your mind and the movements of your hearts, because judgment's not helping, especially if you judge. You're the biggest judge. And then slowly, if we get there, just go ahead, just sit down and let it go. Make something up, and then read it to me or don't read it to me. Like, it would be very open and very, let me think, 2 months. I would have to think about it as well. Depending on who it would be, the way the person works. Because I would never, pour some structure over someone, even the structureless structure that I'm proposing. I would never pull it over someone if it's not fitting. If it feels like, okay, you have to have this or that, or by the way you're talking to me, or the way okay, you need this, you need that. So we have to figure out.
A common advice that you would tell an aspiring writer to ignore, what do you think are some advices young writers get that are totally bullshit, that are not leading anywhere?
Don't accept any rules from anyone else.
No rules, right?
Don't accept any perspective except for you find them really good and they make sense to you in all matters. Like, don't stop. Don't judge too much. Don't just keep writing is essential. If you're stupid enough to judge one of your better, worser texts, and that being angry stops the next good text from coming out, because it's just waiting in line to be called.
Yeah.
So don't get confused by that. Nothing has to be perfect. Nothing has to be special. Nothing has to,
How do you deal with your own evaluation of your writing? Do you feel you're a good writer? What is a good writer? And is there such thing as a good and a bad writer?
I don't think there is. Well, of course, this is hard to answer. Because at some point, I think everyone can be a writer. At some point, well, maybe I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I don't have an answer to that. It depends on what you mean is what you think a good writer is. Because I do love weird stuff too. Like, I love to read little notes from people, like random notes. I think that's also like a little window into a house, and it hides very much information, or everything hides so much. Yeah. So yes, if I do appreciate great writers. It's like, oh my God, the way you put this into words is just incredible. I think that's what mainly people think is a great writer, is to just go, wow, or to forget about that there's a different person. You just actually have the feeling it's the voice from yours, like within yourself, where we come back to the thoughts are universal. You know, authenticity plays a big role for me if I judge that. So
Something is honest?
If it's authentic, if you love it, if you love what you did, or if you meant it, it's cool. It's cool for me. I think then you're good at what you're doing. But yeah, there are maybe differences though still. If I think I'm a good writer, well, I can only say I love what I'm doing, and I do have texts where I think this was an important thought of mine for me. And yeah, now I do have, people that tell me a lot about what they were thinking after my reading, which is very, very cute and very, very nice and very, very interesting, because they become something else. The moment you read them out, they go on a journey, and they, people make everything out of them, everything they need.
What are your 3 favorite writers? Any book that you would like to recommend? Not only for writers, but for people in general. If you would make a gift on Christmas, for example, what book would you send out to people?
Hermann Hesse, of course. I freaking love this guy.
Which book from him?
I was mesmerized by Demian.
Okay.
I found home. He's like home to me. And I think a lot of people think that way. So, and it's interesting what they do out of Hermann as well. Well, Hermann Hesse in general is a good way of starting or maintaining reading, feeling not too complicated, but enough food for your brain and heart. You just could take it as a nice story, but you can also take it as, life advice forever. If
you make a aspiring writer read one book just for the essence of looking at the style, the writing style, who do you like about that? I'm getting impressed constantly when I read stuff, but the last thing I read was from, people might know this, I don't know where you guys come from, like mainly, but Toni Morrison, the American writer, she got this book. In English, I think it's Very Blue Eyes. Okay. Or something like that. And I knew it was on my list anyways. Like, I have many books on my list where I know I have to read it. For example, this winter is dedicated to the Russians. So because I haven't started doing the Russian chapter, and I know there's going to be a lot of stuff there. But Toni Morrison I was very impressed by the way she wrote in Very Blue Eyes. We're going to put the link there as well, because I'm not too sure of the title right now. Yes, of course.
That was really nicely written, very skilled. And then haikus, Japanese haikus, incredible. This is not necessarily for everyone. Like, haikus is very short and very intense in a way, but
almost one-liners, right?
Yeah, and very subtle at the same time. And though not so subtle, it's so blank. It's like, I don't know. It's amazing, which is even sad, because I really would want to understand Japanese enough so I can actually read and understand the original haiku. Because translation is always eating.
I can teach you some basic Japanese.
Can you?
I can. I'm learning Japanese right now. So.
I really want to learn Japanese right now too.
Yeah,
nice.
And I read mangas since I'm like 16 or something. So I always wanted to learn the language behind it. It's a beautiful culture there. Beautiful culture. So much mindfulness and their way of living. Mona, if you would travel back 10 years to your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give to yourself?
20-year-old?
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing. It's worth it. Don't give up. Don't refuse the work and the effort. Everything's going to turn out just fine. You will see. I can only tell you that, but you need to do those things you're doing right now, and there is a reason for it. And you will get everything you want. So, I got you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, last question from the psychology part, then we are done. Imagine, I need to ask this question. Imagine you have a magic wand and you meet a behavior wizard, a psychologist who has a wizard wand, and you can change any behavior you want, or you can add a new behavior.
Ooh,
what would you do?
What an awesome question.
Yeah.
Jeez. Oh, God. He can change only psychological stuff.
Like imagine you are an iPhone and you can add any app, but the apps are habits or psychological patterns.
Psychological
you can just
patterns.
either like erase something,
oh my God.
or you can add something like, okay, I'm gonna download the meditation app, or okay, I'm gonna stop worrying in the morning, or I'm gonna stop thinking about everything I ever did wrong 5 minutes before I go to sleep.
That I'm even less holding back.
What do you mean by holding back?
Holding back in any way. Like, that is still like a little part of me that is not fully living, you know? And I want it to die. So, whenever I don't do something, I regret it. Like, we all know it. All the old people that nearly die, they only regret the things they did not do. And I have so many interests and so many thoughts, and I should go for every single one of them. And so yeah, maybe because sometimes I have a motivation gap, or yeah. Sometimes hard for me because, you know, my hormones, I don't know, I don't get too many endorphins from doing certain things like maybe others. You know, I don't need a big part of me, which is tricky to deal with, is other people do things so they can be acknowledged or something, and that makes them happy. I don't have that. So, you know, because I like myself and I don't need too many other people telling me that I'm, I don't know, good. Yeah. I don't know if that's healthy or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's healthy too. But sometimes it takes away, you know, that healthy ego I got, takes away a lot of motivation that other people have. Same with the money guys, you know, the one that really, like, you know, that do everything and they put everything they have and all the power they have into one things because their ego need this, I don't know, that money extra on that, you know, on their raise or...
Like psychologically, you need a bit of discomfort in your life to get your ass up and do stuff. Like, this is normal. Like, like especially with the high achievers, there's always, well, I won't say always, but to me it seems there's a narcissistic root at the end of the tunnel that says, at least in some part of you, you are, okay, this is not cool, I need to repair this, I need to change this, I need to add more. So there needs to be in some form of your soul a dissatisfaction with how things currently are. Otherwise, why change it or why do anything?
Exactly. Creativity is based on problems.
Yeah.
Or doing things. I don't know. Yeah, so sometimes I wish, because now I'm, you know, but even those things where you know, okay, society don't want me to do this and I just give in, those things as well. Like, sometimes I just freaking feel like, oh my God, do is called do, Tao. I just want to go on my knees and just put my face into that morning fresh grass lying there, and I don't know, make this one weird sound that just really wants to come out of me. Why the fuck should I not do this? I only live once.
Yeah.
If people would do more of that kind of shit that I feel like, we would have half of as much violence and alcoholics, drug abuse, and all those things, because people feel like random shit sometimes. And why am I still, at my age, like freaking 31, still thinking I cannot now, or I numb this, this voice, and I don't like it. I want to be more reckless, even more, till there's no stop. I want to be reckless at the same time, not lose my mind.
I think those two are very together in a way, and
yeah, they're friends. They're friends.
Yeah,
sometimes they do get along. Sometimes they're not. It's intense friendship.
Yeah, I told you last time about that. I struggle from time to time with that. A huge part of I'm a very motivated guy. Like, there are a lot of things I want, and they are very weird and very hard to achieve in a way. And they all started with me having a huge dissatisfaction for how I am right now and where I am right now. And you kind of keep those patterns with you even when you achieve stuff and even when you feel very good. So it is a tricky thing to not feel too much contentment when there are things you want. And if you analyze that you actually want to become more, you, in a way, I don't know, feel a bit shitty from time to time, can be also helpful if you don't take it too far and completely neglect the person that you are right now, in a way.
Yeah, think shitty as well, of course. And like constantly for example, when I kind of healed from, my bad feelings, like or it changes as well, people out there. So it's not going to stay forever where you are. It's going to change, and shit comes in different colors. And so the forming, your active forming of how to perceive it, how to rearrange it, how to reinvent yourself on a daily or I don't know, yearly or whatever, however it comes to you. And for example, when I got rid of my bad feelings, and it kind of got me into an identification crisis.
Yeah.
Because I've been fighting so long. I've been a warrior my whole life. I have a poem about that, where I come from the battlefield and I'm just an old, wounded, tired, really like tired warrior, where you take off the big shining, because your glory, there's a lot of glory about warriors, and you have this big shields that are like iron and shiny. Then you take it off and you're just wounded and tired, and you don't know who you are anymore. You just know battlefield, and then you're in this house and you're supposed to be good now, but you're still a warrior that is not fighting. That's just weird. And so I looked at myself, and I sadly realized now I got the time and the room to wish for things, but I can't because I haven't learned it. I only learned to fight. I just learned to survive the day, but I was never able to make long-term wishes because there was no room. And so instead of being frustrated and just sad and confused by it, I allowed all those feelings. And then I just said to myself, I'm going to handle this like everything else. I tried to make the best out of it. And that just means I just focused on, now there's room to wish, so go practice wishing. Go try to form it. Form this thing that you don't know how the material is going to react on, or, if it's going to fall apart or not. Just form it again and again and again until you got something you're okay with. And by that time you got new, there's a new chapter, a new shit.
You were talking about wishes. If there would be a shooting star right now, what would you wish for?
That I found love. I've met it before. I know how it feels like. I know what it can be. I know it's hard, but I just wish for that I'm going to be lucky enough to find someone that I love, and I want to share the freaking rest with at some point. Not now. Now is also okay, universe. I'm sorry, but why not? That's another thing. Be careful what you're wishing. If you know something to wish for, wish it. And I always get so humble. I'm like, oh, sorry, universe, I don't want to be too picky. And then the second thought always is, fuck it, I'm going to form this wish as specific as I want.
Yeah, you actually need a little bit of guts to wish what you want.
A little bit more me time, but hey, whatever suits you, we can work this out, universe.
Okay, we are now come to the last section of the interview, and it's going to be the quickest. Okay. I'm just going to ask you a few questions, and you can just tell me what's on your mind, and we're going to walk through them, and it's very short. So let's start. What is your favorite word?
It used to be Sohail. That's a Persian name.
It's what does it mean?
I don't really know. Farsi name is it? I don't know. I think I did. It's the name of my best friend's dad. But I really like the sound of it. Because somebody else asked me that before.
Isn't it something with traveling, in a way?
I don't know. I don't think so. But I tried to rethink because this was an old answer. My favorite. I think I'm so in love with words by now. There's really hard to pick my favorite word, but I can tell you my least favorite.
This is the next question. What is your least favorite word?
I can almost not. All my friends know that I have this word, and they always tease me with it till I get sick in my stomach.
You told me.
I told you, yeah. And I kind of don't want to. It's a German word. It's very ugly. Everyone out there that's like speaking, like native speaking English, whatever. It's Kruste.
Isn't it the same? It's crust is the word in English as well.
Yeah, but crust is it's way better than the other thing. I don't want to say it actually because I really don't like how it's coming out of my mouth. Maybe I kind of overdid like in those. No, but I really don't like it. And do me a favor and I don't know, send Daniel some sound. Some sound messages where you say that word.
Okay. What is a noise you love?
I like the sound that many trees do when wind is blowing. A little wind, like a breeze.
What is a noise you hate?
Oh, so many. I really hate some noises technical stuff does. Or the train, like metal on metal. It's very hard, it almost hurts me. It hurts me.
If someone asks you 3 things that will make them kick ass in life, what would you tell to them? Can be gadgets, can be books, can be whatever.
I would tell them, you're fucking awesome. No one is like you. Go and do your job.
If you can make one thing mandatory for every kid to learn in school, what would it be?
That they're great the way they are, and that they have plenty of talents, because this is neglected, absolutely 100% neglected now, school system, but they're changing it now. They start, in Finland there's like completely different stuff. Nice documentary on Arte right now about the schooling system, and that they change it to this perspective of trying to teach everyone like an individual, whereas certain strengths and certain weaknesses are going to be treated just perfect so they can learn perfectly. And it has to do with a lot of acceptance about your own weaknesses and strengths. So, but I would tell every kid that they're awesome, and that their weakness is not bad. It's just your weakness, and that your strengths are just awesome, and that you should rock them.
Self-acceptance, that's beautiful. If you can pick a person, dead or alive, and you can have dinner with that person on a beautiful beach in Hawaii, who would you choose?
And it would not be you. It cannot be you. Okay.
That's what you were saying.
Okay, any person dead or alive that I would have dinner. First of all, I wouldn't make it on a beach. I would have like a really nice table setting with like a 20 course of wine and food, like a feast.
20 course.
Yeah, like this tiny stuff, but constantly coming for hours, like for hours.
And who would it be?
Jesus.
I think this is the coolest and most logical answer. Jesus must be such a dope guy.
Well, supposedly, but let's see. That's what that's what I try to find out.
Yeah.
Guys, I will update you if I ever meet Jesus.
Yeah, but he must be a letdown. Like,
I don't know.
Like, he's famous for being the son of freaking God. Like, if there's any imperfection in him, then...
Oh, well, I'm half Arab, so he's also just a prophet. So let's just see. That's just his legacy.
Okay.
But people say all sorts of creepy shit in the yellow press. So maybe
I don't know. I always imagine Jesus to be this cool hippie surfer dude with this long hair and like no shoes.
Everyone is doing his own thing.
Yeah, let's love each other and.
But so Jesus or the guys that wrote the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Like a big feast with I don't know, how many were you? 15, 20, 30, I don't freaking know. Like the top 10 of the Old Testament dudes. That would be awesome.
Okay. What was the best investment you ever made? It can be money, it can be time, it doesn't matter. It can be energy.
Oh, okay. The best investment I've ever. Well, actually, it's the decision and the work that I put in for writing and all the effort I put into other people. Of course, that's those two things. All the effort and love. All that's so rewarding.
If you could put a slogan on every coffee mug in the world, what slogan would that be?
Just do it.
Just do it?
I freaking copy Nike because it's the best name ever. It fits to every situation. It fits to every thought, except for your suicidal. Don't do it. Okay, or if you're really over that thing, actually really no, I'm going to hurt someone constantly if I stay, then maybe just do it.
Oh my god, this is hilarious. I imagine myself going to a Sakari facility and wearing a big ass Nike t-shirt which is just do it. And everybody says, yeah, should I? Yeah. No. Okay, let's come to
Okay, the mug would be depending on what you're thinking. Just do it. What a weird cup.
Yeah, let's assume everybody is a good person at heart and doesn't do weird shit. Last question.
Yeah.
Imagine you would die and you would stand in the front of Heaven's Gate. What would you like to see and what would you like to hear?
I think and I would wish for something that I am not in my earth human body. I'm too little to think of what could be feeling like this. So maybe it's that little thing that we sometimes talk about, and where we have the feeling, okay, something higher touched me. Something that just feels like nothing in this world is better than this right now. Like holding someone in your arms that you really love. Or that slight moment when somebody really laughs from the bottom of his heart, and there's this little pinch that you get in your heart, in your stomach, that just feels like, I don't know, 1,000 butterflies that are made of light. Maybe something like this in a more broad and subtle way.
That was a beautiful answer. Mona, you made it through the interview. Thank you for your time.
I'm
so grateful to have met you. You fascinate me. I learned so much from you, and I think I got a little better today. Thank you again for your time. And yes, I wish you all guys who listened a beautiful day. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Bye.
Well, folks, this was today's episode. I hope this could add some value to you guys. This podcast still is in its experimental phase, so please let me know what you liked and didn't like. You can let me know on my blog, DannyKarim.com, or on social media. As always, thank you so much for listening and tune in next time.